Good morning. And for all the people in the Canadian market, happy Thanksgiving. I know it's a little earlier in Canada for some reason. I have no idea why, but I did put up a post today on LinkedIn if you're curious. But for everyone else, obviously it's a regular work day. So today we're talking about customer experience and video. We all know video is everywhere today on every device and everywhere, but is it where it needs to be in the automotive area? That's the discussion. We're going to start with the customer experience video. This video this morning is actually from Sarah Valentine. Believe it or not, it's from about a year ago. You can watch the whole video on our YouTube channel. There's a lot of customer experience stuff. Here we go. So that was obviously from a year ago, and we all know that was happening everywhere. But anyway, let's get into it. Here we go.
Feldman. I'm the general manager of Fred Bean's Kia in Langhorne. I just wanted to take a minute to talk about Larry Feldman and Career Changers USA. Larry and I have been working together for about the last 12 years now. And anything I've ever needed as far as recruiting, training, Larry's been right there. Larry's got me salespeople. He's got me managers. He's got me technicians, even through the toughest times in the industry. And he is just the kind of guy who's going to tell you exactly what's on his mind. He's going to tell you exactly what he thinks. But Larry also has the expertise to back it up. When he was in the dealership world, he was a top performer. And that's really important to my staff, especially as it pertains to training. A lot of people can come in and teach out of a textbook, but Larry has real world experience dealing with customers, dealing with situations in dealerships that we go through on a daily basis and try to train on. But Larry's been through it, so he can really empathize with the people and tell you what's worked for him and maybe what way not to go. Larry is just always at a 10. I mean, his energy level is always up there. And I think people, they just love that and they feed off of it. He's not faking it. He is genuinely excited to come in and help you. He's excited to come in and help grow your business. And he's one of those people who just really enjoys seeing dealers succeed and have a lot of fun at the same time.
Life is about connection. Having a support system to lean on. And roads to endless possibility. At every turn, guiding the way, we are building the connections that move you.
So what would your dealership feel like if your entire sales staff was literally on fire, your sales and service staff? They were nonstop all over social media, completely dominating your marketplace. They could do it in 30 days or less and then continue their education to do it for an entire 6 months or a year. You literally would completely take over the entire marketplace and no one would be able to compete with you. And that's what we can do for you. So when you're walking around your community, whether you're at local restaurants or you're going to the gym, you don't want to be bothered? Fine, you won't be bothered. But a lot of people will walk up to you and say, oh my God, I love your social media. Your staff is amazing. We love what you're doing in the community. We want to come buy a car from you. We want to get an oil change at your dealership. Your community is absolutely going to love you. And it doesn't matter what platform you're on. You could be on TikTok, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, all social media platforms. You will literally be all over the place. And not only will you have ads running, but your own staff is going to be promoting your brand and promoting themselves within the dealership and within the business. So it's like running an ad times 100-fold because your entire staff is participating in the process. I've traveled all over North America. I've trained Toyota. I've trained Nissan. I've been to driving sales. I've been to Women in Auto. I get hired as a speaker for conferences at universities all over the country. And I can help change the trajectory of your dealership right now.
If you haven't watched Gail's video on TikTok from an event we were at years ago, you might want to, because that was one of the funniest live experiences I've ever seen, where you had about, 100 general managers and car dealers doing TikTok videos as a group, which was really, really funny and comical, I thought. Anyway, we're talking about video today, and we know video is everywhere on social media. TikTok and other platforms are using it. LinkedIn's using it. There's lots on social media. I'm sure Gail can speak to that as well. But why do you think dealers are not embracing video technology in 2024 the way they should? So let's start with the first person who appeared on the show. And I think that was Matthew. So go ahead, Matthew.
Yeah, hey everybody, Matt Weinberg. Been a car guy since the mid to late 90s. Very quickly got into e-commerce. And I've spent half my career on the dealer side and half on the vendor side of the business. As far as your question about, dealers not embracing video technology in today's age, I think there's really three reasons. One is the just get them in mentality. Two is the COVID hangover. And three is perception of a hard learning curve. And so what I mean by those, the just get them in, right? Car dealers think customers got to be in person in order for me to sell them a car, and in order for me to follow the same steps of the sale that we've been using for decades on end. And then the COVID hangover, right? We just had a great party and we're all drunk on our success. But now it's the morning after, right? And we're
Right.
hungover. And the reality of the great normalization is really coming home and hitting us hard. And part of that return to normal is going to have to be getting back to inspect what you expect.
Right. Makes
And
sense.
this perception that dealers have that anything new has to have a learning curve, and a fear that integrating that technology might disrupt the existing process. And then also part of the perception is, I don't know if my team can do it. I don't know if they want to get on video. I don't know if they have they have a face for radio. And by the way, when a dealer tells me that, I go, well, what are they going to do when the customer comes in the store? They're going to be face to face with them right then, right? But, and maybe
Exactly.
I'm getting ahead of where you're taking the show, Ian, but, when properly used, dialogue video, right? And I want to quickly distinguish for me, at least, at Vidify 360.
Yeah.
We're doing what we call dialogue video. It's not a monologue video. A monologue video is, right, sending a snap cell or a co-video, right, taking a video and sending it to somebody. This is dialogue. This is face-to-face. This is me talking to you. And when you do that properly, it actually can help your dealership team lean into the steps to the sale even more.
100%. Thanks for that. We got Doug on, and I know Doug's with A to Z or A to Z sync for the Canadian side. I know you've been changing the dealership process for dealers and for big companies like, I don't know, Amazon. What's your opinion on why there's so much of fear of video and why they're not using it for, to quote Matt, I mean, conversational versus let's send you a video and hope it works out. Chasing video was what I'd call it.
Well, I would say I would first off say I think the COVID excuse is long gone. It's long past since COVID was here. I think we've been in this hangover for a long enough time that they're back to reality, that they're back to the way things were pre-COVID. And as far as video goes, I think what's happened is it gives you a great opportunity to interact with a customer in many ways. And I just think that at this point, dealers, they're still stubbornly stuck in the ways of the past. They're still hesitant to change. And I don't think that the video providers necessarily have done a good enough job educating them on as to all the various means in which video could help them in their sale. I mean, let's face it, most customers are going to do 99% of their research online. They're not going to come into your store until they absolutely have to, if they even have to. And yet at the same time, these people need some guidance. And when dealers recognize that and they can reach out to it with a video and meet with them face to face and guide them through their purchase and help them answer questions. I mean, I saw a figure that said that over 80% of businesses are using video in their everyday operations, which means the vast majority of people are very comfortable dealing with videos. So utilizing it to help the selling of cars and help people through the process is only logical, but I just think that they need to be educated a little bit and realize it's not that hard. I mean, you're doing it every day. Just do it with what you're doing to sell a car. So I think that's the biggest challenge.
Fantastic. And we got Joel Benson from VidCalls. He's also a sponsor of the show, by the way. So go ahead, Mr. Joel. What do you think?
I agree with both of you. I think one of the biggest problems is dealer marketing and getting the message out to a consumer saying, we'd like you to come into the dealership. If you don't want to come into the dealership, you don't need to make a phone call to us. We now offer video call services. So if you want to see our sales representative, they can screen share with you. They can show you the cars. They can send you over to the F&I department. They can meet you face to face. And that's how we want to do our sales. So if you want to call on the phone, here's our phone number right on top of our website. But if you don't, if you'd like to meet with our sales staff right now in seconds, just click below on our link and we'll meet you face to face and answer all your questions leading towards purchase of a car.
So do you think it's just fear, as everyone else said, or do you think it's just like we don't know how to do that? Or what? I mean, what do you think? You think it's like fear of the smartphone?
I think it's the dealer not doing their job of marketing the fact that they do have video services, video call services, where a customer can meet them face to face online. And and understanding that telephone calls into dealerships for sales doesn't really work. So they should be honest with the consumer and say, look, love to talk to you on the phone. If you want to make a phone call to us, here's our phone number. However, we have a new service with video calls, and all you have to do is click here and meet us face to face. We'll show you the cars online. You can even screen share to us if you want to do a trade-in. You can show us your car, and we might be able to let you know what the valuation of that car is even before you come into the dealership. So we definitely want you to come in, but let's meet first. We know you're contacting a lot of dealers. You're doing a lot of deep diving on the internet. Come meet with us face to face. Let's discuss and help you with your journey.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. I mean, I've had many shows on leads and many shows on websites and many shows on technology. And I've worked retail myself and I manage an internet department. And one of the biggest things that kind of makes me laugh about leads, not to say that leads are bad by their nature, is dealers spend probably 80 to 90% of their time chasing customers that had an interest at some point in the past, but we all know they spent a lot of time online before they became a lead, and they probably forgot that lead right after they left it. So I think that's the biggest challenge dealers aren't recognizing is you want to increase that, say 5 to 10% lead closure rate or whatever that metric is for your dealership. What you need to do is stop chasing leads and start talking to customers. And video calls, I think, is the best way to engage with customers. But, Mr. Reeves, maybe you can talk a little bit about the advantages. I know you have a one-person sales model, but what do you think the biggest advantage is of video technology and having that one-person sales model in your case?
Well, first off, let's establish the fact that, yeah, we're very good with the one-person sales model, but our platform is equally successful with the traditional sales model. So
yeah.
I don't want to be typecast into one particular process. But
Fair
to
enough.
answer your question, what it can do is it can quickly personalize the engagement. I mean, regardless of the process you're utilizing, people buy from people they like. And if you have video and you can start introducing yourself and what a warm person you are and what our dealership's about, and here's what you can expect with this, you can tear down these walls of fear that may be existing in a customer's mind and start moving the sale forward. The other thing that you can do is you can make sure that, let's accomplish as much as we can for you while you're sitting on your couch, so that when you come in, if you decide to come in, it'll be very minimal what you'll have to do, which means that my time is efficiently spent in the store. Not only is the customer's time efficiently spent, but so is my sales time is efficiently spent. And frankly, one of the things I think that we're going to find over the years is that this could have a dramatic effect on a dealership's overall profitability. When if I can get an entire deal done with a customer remotely, how does that change my compensation structure? What do I really need to be now rewarding my people on? Because the customer did most of it at home. Sure, we guided them, but it's a different kind of a compensation model that could start being looked at here. Not to mention what it could do for service and all of that. So, in my mind, when digital retailing first came out, it was a new tool in the playbook, and dealers are still trying to get used to it. Well, video is probably in that same stage. It's early on. Eventually, it'll work into the mainstream of the playbooks. But right now, the dealers that are adopting it are working it in and saying this is a key part of our operations.
Yeah, I mean, I had a talk with a dealer, I think it was in Montreal the other day, and he does a lot of 20 group stuff, and he was, whining about the cost, not to whine, but he was whining about the cost of certain staff members in his team, about the cost of that staff. And what I said to him is I said, hey, I mean, you've got to be more efficient with time, but more importantly, having a bunch of salespeople sitting and waiting for customers to show up in a showroom environment, whether they're in finance or whether they're in special finance or subprime or prime, or even in the service department, may not make sense. If you're using that person's time more effectively because they're waiting anyway, that makes sense. But also it's going to impact your bottom line because you're going to be helping that customer, right?
And I think something to consider is that, you started off the show playing Sarah Van Tine's video about customer experience, but really, and you've heard me say this countless times, you have to think about the dealership experience. And what video does is it can make it easier for the salespeople. And if we can make their jobs easier and more efficient, and they're happier with what they're able to get done, it's bound to trickle down to the customer as well. So I think part of the learning curve is is realizing what these tools can do to make our team more productive and more efficient and make their jobs easier.
Fantastic. Matthew, what do you think?
Yeah, I think Doug hit on some really solid points. Personalized experience is obviously really key, especially when the customer is remote, right? Whether that's a vehicle presentation, trade-in experience like Joel was talking about. I do think, tying back to what Joel was talking about, I do think from a dealer perspective, it's more important to talk about showing the car or seeing their car than, hey, let's meet face to face. Because frankly, I'm not coming to the store because I don't want to be face to face with you, but I do want to see your car, and I absolutely want to get as much for my trade as possible, right? And if you think back to when we were all in school, right, it was called show and tell, not tell and show. And the reason for that is partially how our brains work. Right? So our brains can process what it sees 60,000 times faster than what it reads. 60,000 times faster. So when Doug talks about how do we make this easier for the customer and for the salesperson, it's a lot easier if I can see you, read your body language, and vice versa. And so creating those memorable customer experiences and strengthening those relationships. And Doug, I also have in my notes, people buy cars from people, they buy cars from people they like. Right? So I can create those experiences. Video is going to save time for everybody. And I want you to just imagine for a second a customer that's like crazy busy, right? And I'm thinking of a customer that when I was, helping large dealer groups with digital retailing, one of my large dealer groups, one of their first customers was a CFO and a mother of 6 kids. When we stuck digital retailing on that group's website, she bought the car within 3 hours. And the dealer group was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And we interviewed that customer and she was like, I've been shopping for 6 months. I didn't have time. I didn't have time to coordinate my schedule and my husband's schedule and the kids' soccer schedule and my CFO plate to get into the dealership. So as soon as I saw this work. So imagine that same customer submits a lead to 4 dealerships and the first 3 go, when can you get here? Have you test driven the car? It's there tomorrow better. Don't worry about price. That's not an issue for us. We've never lost a dealer. As a customer, you're like, no, you're pushing me up the funnel, not down the funnel.
Yeah.
And imagine that 4th dealer calls that same customer and goes, hey, we'd love for you to come in, but we're doing something new here. We have something called live video shopping. If it's more convenient for you, I can show you the car right now, make sure it's the right car for you. I can send you a link. You don't even need to download an app. And if you want, you can leave your camera off. Would that be more convenient for you?
Yeah.
And which, even if they don't use it, right? Like digital retailing, Doug, I've got a large background there. I helped Asbury launch PushStart, which was their predecessor at ClickLane. I helped Lithia launch New Cars on Driveway. I helped Group 1 launch Acceleride with their first version of Acceleride. So, we thought, oh, we'll just make this really easy for the customer and they'll do it. In reality, they want to engage with somebody. They need to engage with somebody. But by offering digital retailing and by offering live video shopping, I'm building trust with that consumer, even if they choose not to use it, because they're going, wait, you would let me do that? All of a sudden, you're like, okay, so wait, you're not the typical car dealer, where the other 3 dealers are actually coming off with the stench. No offense, I'm a car guy, I sold cars. But with that stench of that car salesman, and now as the customer, I'm like, whoa, hold back. So those are some of the big advantages into adding live video shopping to your dealership.
Yeah, I mean, we've had all kinds of conversations over the years about digital retail. We pitted the different digital retail companies against each other. We had discussions about, okay, is 10 steps enough, or is it too much? And there's a lot of abandonment, and a lot of the abandonment, in my opinion, and even today, I think is just, okay, this is too complicated. I need help. Like, it's all good. I need help. Like, how can I get some help? That's what I want to do. I don't want to come in. I want help. Right?
Sorry. Really important there, right? Like Carvana.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, Driveway was Lithia's response to Carvana.
Yeah.
In the financial world. But if you think about it, and I know because I've talked to some of the team at Carvana and at DriveTime, which, is same parent company essentially.
Yep.
The average Carvana buyer communicates with a Carvana agent on average 12 and a half times during the car buying process. So it's a myth that Carvana is just selling the car using just technology. That's not reality. Reality is that the consumer has questions, like you said, Ian.
Yep.
And the best way to do it, if possible, is on video. And the reason why is because face-to-face communication, according to Harvard Business Review, is 3,300% more effective than email. And 90% of information transmitted to our brain is visual.
Oh, 100%. I mean, we were talking.
On video.
We were talking to. I mean, I was listening to one of the founders of Carvana at an event, a used car event, I believe it was. He didn't show up in person because their stock was tanking at the time, and there was probably.
You should have bought it.
Yeah, there was probably, I don't know, 300 car dealers in the room who thought he was Darth Vader, which was actually kind of entertaining. If you want to watch the interview, I taped it. It was pretty interesting. And it was, I think, with Steve Greenfield. And basically what he said is, he said, if you told me how hard this was going to be 8 years ago when I started this company, I probably wouldn't have done it. Like, it's way too difficult to do this. And I thought that was interesting. What do you think, Joel?
It's just used cars.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he was basically saying, hey, I built this company. We did some things right. We did a lot of things wrong. We're not perfect by any stretch. This challenge was just really, really hard. And if you had told me 8 years ago it was going to be this hard, I probably would have passed. And it was funny because you could see the dealers in the room, which are mostly used car dealers, who initially thought he was, either Darth Vader or Satan incarnate, basically. And he wasn't there live for whatever reason, which was kind of entertaining. But he wasn't that. He was just trying to figure it out. So, I mean, that's really what I think is the biggest opportunity here. Is you need to figure out how to streamline it for the customer, how to shorten the time frame, create a better experience. What do you think, Joel?
Bottom line is, if a consumer, any time of the day, 9 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the afternoon, 3 o'clock, whatever it's convenient for them, a car shopper that takes their time, and we found in some of the research, some of the women even put makeup on and dress themselves up before they get on a video call. So once a consumer takes the jump to get on a video call with a car dealer, they're a serious shopper. They're not wasting your time, and you're not wasting their time. They want to buy a car. And that's the message. That it's obvious, right? It's obvious. So it's a salesperson's job to do the best job that they can on that video call to get the consumer comfortable, show them the vehicles if they can. Used car places have done an excellent job, because they can take their smartphone and they can go out into their lot and they can show the consumer different cars that they have available. I mean, that's.
Oh yeah.
Can't do that on the telephone. So if we know the shopper is deep diving on the internet, they are. If we know that shoppers are picking the right convenient time to call in when they have the time, it's not a cold call coming from the dealer to the consumer where they catch them off guard while the mother's taking their kid to school or they're busy doing something else. When it's convenient for the consumer to take their time, dress up if need be, get on a video call with a dealer, you've got the hottest lead in the automobile industry.
100%.
That's what video calls do.
So to stick with you, Joel, I mean, how difficult is it to get started with video at a car dealership? I mean, what do you think?
Well, it's very simple. I mean, there's ways with new technology that you don't even need to have equipment anymore. Just a computer with a camera on it or a smartphone. We happen to have Apple apps and Android apps, which make the connection very, very quick and easy for the consumer. But it's a simple step. Any way to get into a dealership, it's a matter of clicking a button or in some cases putting in some information.
Fantastic. Mr. Reeves, I mean, I know that you have a process. How difficult is it to get started at dealerships to change their internal, I don't know, to lack of a better term, Luddite process where they're going, yeah, just come on in, throwing a grenade from 10,000 feet or whatever that is.
Well, one thing, we've made video part of our platform. So it's just a standard part of our platform. And one of the things that we've done is, well before we launch a store, we start meeting with them remotely to start handling various issues. And we will actually do it on this platform. And we'll send them the link, and then they'll jump on. And we said, you're on video lane right now. And they're like, really? I go, yep, this is how simple it is. That's the easiest way for us to get it, is to just literally show them how easy it is. And so doing that has certainly opened their eyes. And then as we share it with various departments, so certainly stores that have centralized BDCs, when we show them the power of a lead comes in, you send a link, the customer clicks on it. Now you're meeting with them face to face. You're reviewing the lead. You're taking them as far down the sales funnel as they choose to go. You're looping in the salesperson that they're going to be meeting with when they come to the store. So now it's a warm face when they come in. BDCs get that and think, well, and they love it because it's another way of making this painless for the customer. I think the thing that, what we've certainly, and I'm sure everybody on this call would agree, we're in an economy of ease, and it's easy to do everything. But our industry continues to, fight that ease. And dealers that adopt this, that are now playing into a customer's ease of purchase, ease of transaction, ease of just communicating with it, those are the dealers that will be ahead. So when you show them how easy it is to be part of this economy of ease, it makes them accepting it and moving it into the part of their operations a lot easier for us.
Thanks for that. Matthew, how difficult is it? How difficult is change with the video call side?
Yeah, I mean, change can be challenging. I actually want to first, point out Joel and Doug are both talking about convenience, right? And I like to call it of ease. I call it the convenience economy. Right? If it's not easy for me as the consumer, I'm out. But you're asking about the dealer, and it's the same thing. If it's not easy for the dealer, they're out, right? Mm-hmm. So it's got to be an easy to use tool, and I think we're all bringing those to the market. I can obviously speak better, for Vidify 360, but with our tool, you can be up and running really quickly. It's really intuitive, but that doesn't mean that change management comes easy. Doug, you know that. I know what you're doing is it's change management, right? Mm-hmm. So what we tend to do is tell them, hey, let's get you up and running. And the first thing that we actually do in the first few days is we just actually have them video call themselves, video call each other. Because one of the things we talked about earlier was why are dealers maybe resisting this? And we talked a little bit about, well, I'm worried that my team may not want to use it. They might be nervous. And listen, that's to be expected. The first time that you're getting on video with a consumer, even though you talk face to face to them, it's different, it's new. It's going to be a little bit intimidating. So having them practice with each other takes that away, because when I'm getting on video with a customer, if I'm using the tool for the first time on my phone, I'm going, is this going to work? How's this work? And once I get nervous, that can change it, right? So that's the first thing that we do is we have them actually practice with each other. Once they get past that, they're good. And then from the consumer perspective, right, like at least with Vidify, they never need to download an app, right? All they need is an internet connection and a device. So it's incredibly easy for them. And so the challenge isn't the tech, it's that, creating a new habit. And as dealer teammates use it and see success, that will help them form it. And typically, like with any other technology, if you can get 1 or 2 or 3 people that are using it and having success, everybody else sees that. And like one of our stores, for example, we have a guy who, and if he hears this, I hope he'll forgive me. He's not exactly a superstar salesperson. He's just not. Like he sells 10 to 12 boards a month. But he got and did 12 video calls with customers and sold 9 of them a car. 9 of them. So now he's like, I'm going to try and get everybody on video, because what he's realized is it's easier to get the consumer on video than it is to get them to coordinate their schedule and come to the store. In fact, they can't do that right now if I got them on the phone. And I get, Ian and Joel, I think we've talked about inbound video calls on here. I think we've alluded to that and totally agree, Joel. That's the best lead in the automotive world today. There's no question. Some people might even suggest it's better than somebody walking onto your floor. But that being said, if I'm a consumer and I've submitted a lead, how as a dealer do I get face-to-face with you? The fastest way is not trying to get them into the store. The fastest way is to send them a dialogue video call, an interactive face-to-face video.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at it, that customer, let's just say on average they spend 11 hours online or more these days, and they used to visit 3 to 5 stores, as we all know, and now they're probably sending leads to 5 to 8 stores They don't remember what store they sent it to. They have no idea, right? And when they sent it, who knows? Like what car, I don't remember, right? Because their attention span is not what it was. And to your point, I mean, I just want help like that. I'm putting up the red flag saying, help me. Like, I don't know, right? I mean, I'm a car person, have been for a lot of years, and everywhere I go, I always get asked car questions. And it's not because I'm maybe brighter than them. It's just I know more than they do. And that's basically what, you know, customers want. They say, hey, am I making the right decision? I have a question, right? And to your point, it may, you know, it's definitely signifying interest, but also if you help them and someone else doesn't, even though you're not wearing makeup or whatever, I mean, that's still better than, you know, responding to a lead form fill. I mean, I was looking at a video technology last week in another industry, and their form fill was worse than the car business before the call got even initiated. It was like 8 fields. I was like, nobody is going to fill those out. Nobody. Before they start the process, I was like, it's like 20-year-old auto tech. It was like laughing.
Let me throw a question to you guys.
Yeah.
Where do you think video plays into the proposed CARS rule as far as transparency, as far as advertising, all of that? How do you think that this could be more of an asset for dealers that are concerned about that?
Well, I think recording is a huge thing for the CARS rule for compliance, but also, you know, if that consumer, you know, that conversation, whether it's recorded or whether it's a transcription, if that's, you know, transparent and you have that record, it's going to be a must for obviously F&I long term anyway. But when you look at the ability to track that down and say, okay, I said this, the car salesman said that, it eliminates that whole, you know, he said, she said legal thing, or in the car business, the skating stuff, right? Like I'm not fighting in a showroom.
A great example of this from our friend Brian Kramer, who shared this with me.
Yeah.
Because you were just pointing out, they submit a lead, they don't even know which dealer they submitted the leads to, right? So CARS rule is going to make it really important that all interactions are recorded and that you keep a record of that. And so I agree, and recording is important. So Brian Kramer shared a story with me when I was showing him Vidify 360 and talking about how our AI transcribes, records, and summarizes every conversation. And he shared a story with me that I think is relevant to this, because he had a couple come into his store when he was still a GM. And when they came in, everything was not what they thought they'd heard over the phone. So they wanted to talk to the GM, and they wanted the salesperson fired because the salesperson had told them X, Y, or Z. So Brian, because this was a phone call, was able to go into whichever tool he was using. I can't remember.
Recording tool
or whatever it was. And he pulls up the call with the customers in front of him. The customers are sitting in front of his desk. He's like, well, let's find the call. Before we do anything, let's listen to the call together. So he finds the call between the salesperson and this couple, plays the call out loud for them, and at the end, the husband sheepishly turns to the wife and says, honey, I think that was the other store.
Exactly. And we have experience in Medicare, Medicaid, so that's crucial in Medicare, Medicaid. It's a different purchase experience, obviously, but it's the same concern for compliance. And an F&I is another one. Like if I'm presenting a financial product, yeah, I kind of want to know that I presented it when something happens, unfortunately, later on. I mean, I've worked with a group that happens to have locations in both countries, and every location in Texas, they videotape everything in the F&I office for compliance reasons. But if you're initiating that on a video call, and let's just say that purchase time used to be 2 or 3 hours in a store, and it's maybe 30 minutes on a video call, and then maybe it's a half an hour in the store, why wouldn't you have end-to-end coverage there, right? And especially if there's maybe a language issue, right? Like I've got people speaking different languages, so that's a whole other ball of wax. But what do you think, Joel?
What's happening in politics, folks? Someone says cat lady by mistake quickly, and boom, it's on video and it's used in commercials, and it's the power. It's the power of video. We're working with some Medicare advisors and helping them write copy in their emails to consumers saying, I know you're going to see a lot of Joe Namath and William Shatner on the air telling you to buy Medicare from them. What do they offer you? They offer you a telephone number to call. I don't sell policies on telephone calls, but I will meet you on a video call. Here's my link. click on this, and I'll be happy to have a discussion with you on a video call. I can screen share, I can show you Medicare plans, Medicare A, B, C, D, and E, and we can pick the best policy for you. And that's, I wish that the auto dealers or if they're gonna come into the video call business, do the same thing. It's up to you see too many owners on TV, come in, we got the 4th of July sale, we're 50% off, we're gonna give you this, we're gonna give you that. Let them say, you don't even need to come into our dealership right now. We believe in you, we want you to believe in us. Click this link, boom, and we'll meet you on a video call and we'll show you everything that we can from the dealership. You'll meet our sales force, you can meet our sales manager, you can meet our supply department, our service department. Vid calls are a wonderful thing, we hope you can use it.
Yeah, I mean,
And
I agree with that 100%.
that's how we educate. We have to educate the consumer, period.
And does that answer your question, Doug?
What's that?
Does that answer your question?
Well, yeah, I mean, I would subscribe that a lot of customer complaints, I mean, let's face it, when a dealership gets nailed by the FTC or something, it's because some customer initially raised hell about something.
Yep.
And oftentimes it's something that wasn't even necessary. And I would subscribe that video offers the ability for the dealership to set the table nicely, to let them know this is what we're all about, to make sure nothing gets lost in translation. Because let's face it, if we're firing emails back and forth, the lazy guy is only going to type what he has to type because I'm tired of typing. Whereas on video, I can disclose everything. I can show you everything. We can discuss everything. I can get full clarification on everything. We can fill in the missing gaps so that when the customer comes in, it's less likely that they're going to be raising hell with us because we did everything up front. We shared everything up front. Why would you be pissed off at me? Because I've been the nice guy the whole time. There's nothing lost in translation. So I think video offers an ability to intercept heat before heat even exists and create just a better flow of everything, if you will.
Yeah, just imagine how difficult politics would be if everything was on video and recorded.
Can I chime in for a second, Ian?
Yeah, go ahead.
So one of my board advisors, Dean Evans, you guys may know Dean, former CMO at Hyundai.
Yeah.
He was just sharing with me the other day, United Airlines, for their frequent flyers, if they have a heat case, they force them to get on video because they know when they get on video with that person that's upset with them, that it's harder for that person to yell at Doug when I can see him because he's humanized all of a sudden. And so over the phone, if I don't see Doug, I can go at him. But as soon as I see him, I'm like, okay, Doug's a person. Doug's a person. So it actually lowers their inhibitions and actually gets them to reduce the friction in those heat cases much faster when they're on video.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I mean that's a big time saving. I mean, I know there was a video that kind of went viral a couple of years ago. I think it was a Toyota employee somewhere where they were fighting with another Toyota employee in a showroom, and it went viral on YouTube, for example. Yeah. But when you look at car dealerships, and it's a difficult business to manage because of the interactions, not necessarily because of the customers or the staff, but because there's so much interaction. If you could record a lot of that, it would probably eliminate a lot of those problems and save time, but more importantly, would give that customer clarity. I mean, I always use the example of airlines when there's something that goes wrong in an airport and they have the queued line of people that are, wanting to throw stuff at the employees. But a lot of those people, by the time they get through that lineup, they're not as harsh with the employees as when they started, because they have the time to really think it through and go, okay, yeah, things happen, right? Like, how can we get this done versus let's scream at someone? Whereas if they're doing it online or on social media, for example, they can embarrass themselves because they're not thinking about those repercussions, right? They're not thinking it through, rightly or wrongly. So I would say that time savings is one of the biggest advantages, not only for the dealership, but for the customer. I mean, one of the biggest complaints we've had multiple times on the show is how long it takes to do anything in a car dealership. Whether it be buying a car, servicing a car, talking to F&I, buying an accessory, getting a car to them, all those things. So I think the biggest advantage is efficiency. I know we've talked a lot about Benstock on the show over the years. And I think part of the reason he's so successful in the car business is he's constantly looking for ways to enhance everything. So to look at, how can I deliver more cars? How can I shorten up the process? How can I customize it? And I think that's also something that's going to get torn apart by video, is that road to the sale process is going to become much more customized. You're going to have consumers remotely saying, yeah, I don't want to do these 6 things. I want to do these 3 things. Like, how can I do that? Right? Because they're no longer in a, a controlled environment, I guess, for lack of a better term. I mean, what do you think that in terms of time savings? I know Doug's got some thoughts here, but who wants to go over time savings? Whoever wants to start.
Well, yeah, I mean, let's face it. The customers, instead of having a process dictated to them, they want to be part of the process, and video certainly allows them to do that. And when you can read the customer's facial expressions, when you can, get tonality, when you can move things along quicker, when you can upload documents from them so that things are done quicker. There's all kinds of time savings that can be accomplished through video, let alone, I could sell the car, but then if I can turn the deal over to F&I, and F&I can now do a full F&I presentation with the customer at home. I mean, finance managers struggle all the time trying to do a menu presentation when the customer's not there, and they send it to them or they email it to them and they're on the phone. When you can do a video call and you can literally share your screen and change terms, change deductibles, do whatever you want to do on a menu and customize things. Yeah, you could totally shrink the total time needed to sell a car, and do it in a way that meets the customer's needs. And that's the critical thing, is that, it's said, it's trite, but it's true. You got to meet the customer where they're at.
Oh, 100%.
Them to be.
100%. Yeah. I mean, when you look at, I guess I'm going back 25 years, but when you look at that road to the sale model, that's probably 100 years old now. It has been updated a little bit with finance and other things. But when you look at that road to the sale model, where I got to jump through 10 hoops, the customer's saying, hey, like, I just want to buy a vehicle. Like, I want to make sure I don't get ripped off. I want to make sure I buy the right vehicle. I want to make sure I'm involved in the conversation, that I look at what I'm buying, all these kind of things. Video to me is a game changer for that reason. But also, if I can eliminate that time waiting for finance, or I can schedule that, for example, like schedule a call or click a link to do that, that's a huge thing. But also from a point of view of the dealer, if I can review that videotape, with that finance manager and say, hey, this is how you did, like, good and bad and ugly. This is what you did right. This is what you did wrong. And if I had those every single day and I had the time to do that, it's probably better than reviewing phone calls. I know that there's all kinds of call recordings still out there that people don't listen to very much, but I think that's part of it. What do you think, Joel?
I think you had a great show, and I think I've learned a lot, and VidCall is not the future. VidCall is right now. It's out there. It's happening, and people are using it. Dealers have to learn how to use it. Obviously, the salespeople have to learn how to use it. Obviously, but definitely with screen sharing. Can you screen share on a telephone? No. Can you help the consumer fill out a form by screen sharing on a telephone? No. VidCall is so much better than telephones. It's not even close. We just have to sell that to the dealers and to all the different verticals that we're working with in vid calling. And the future 10 years from now, when's the last time you saw a telephone on a wall? When's the last time you saw a telephone booth? Video calls are going to be there, replacing telephones, period. Long live Dick Tracy and the Jetsons.
Matthew, what do you think on process and time savings? I'm just curious.
Yeah. I mean, let's start with the road to the sale, because, I think that the way we sell transportation has always been the same, right? I always kind of, had a mentor that joked about how we had a great grandfather who sold camels in the Middle East back in the day. And even then it was the same. That the person came in with their trade and he was like, what do you like about your current camel? What do you want a new one? Do you want a camel with 2 humps? You want a light or dark camel, right? So it's always been the same. And I do think, we need to be careful, because we've talked a lot today about educating dealers and bringing them along on this journey, which is going to benefit them, no question. We can talk about that. But if I go into a dealership, and Doug, you're dealing with this, it's really hard to tell them, hey, the way you're doing it's wrong. Let me change your process. Their head spins around, smoke comes out of their ears. And they're like, what are you doing? So for me, what I'm telling dealers is, hey, I actually want you to lean more into the road to the sale. Yes, the customer may not do it in the exact order you want, but I want you to lean more into it. And the reason that I tell dealers that is because we're actually pushing customers back up the funnel. If we look at the history of communication, it used to be I had to walk into a dealership, not me personally, I'd be aging myself quite a bit, but there was, even before the phone, Joel, you had to walk into the dealership to buy a car. And then when dealers got phones, the customers were like, oh, wait, so I can back up a little bit and I can call you from the car? Great. And then we got the internet, they were like, I can back up even further, right? I can submit a lead to you now. So the customer has been moving away from us in terms of communication. And what video does is it actually takes us back to getting you face to face again. It rehumanizes the car buying process. It rehumanizes the road to the sale. And so as a dealer, I don't need to get you in the store. I can bring the store to you. So when you call me, when you submit a lead, and all this saves time because it helps close the deal faster. Why? Because now I can build trust with that customer faster. I don't need them to come to the store in order to see them and show them I'm a human and get them to trust me and like me, which is higher closing percentage and higher gross profit. And the reason that this all works, I think this is really important, is because it's how our brain works. 90% of human decisions are made in the reptilian part of our brain. It's at the brainstem where our brainstem and spinal cord meets. It's our fight or flight. The reason it's fascinating that 90% of human decisions are made there is that part of our brain cannot understand or process language. It can only understand what it sees and nothing else. So every time a dealer is texting, chatting, emailing, yes, even on the phone with a customer, they're taking them out of the emotional decision-making part of their brain that's so important to us. It's why we want them face-to-face, and we're pushing them into the neocortex part of their brain. Sorry, I love psychology. But they're pushing them into the neocortex part of the brain because they have to process what you just said or wrote to them, and that's not where they buy cars. So you have
Let's just simplify, gentlemen. 3 words: seeing is believing.
Yep.
It's been that's been around for years. Mm-hmm. Seeing is believing, and now that's what we're doing that's what we're doing with e-commerce. We're making seeing believing.
Well, 100%. Ironically, when you look at digital retail, to go back now 3 or 4 years, their whole thing was, oh, we can be like Carvana, we can do that, or we can be like Tesla, or we can make it better, or we can change it, or whatever that might be. And the discussions I've had with OEMs and dealers over the years, I mean, yeah, that doesn't necessarily work, because to your point, the last thing I want to do when I'm emotionally connected to a Cadillac or to a Porsche product or whatever is look at a bunch of analytical stuff on a screen and go, isn't that cool? That's not what I want to look at. And I think there's if anything, the future is going to be simpler, not more complicated. I think that's something that was lost with this digital retail piece. And we even had a discussion with an OEM about roadside assistance, for example. Okay, so I'm going to call call center and then try to explain to them what's broken on my car on the side of the road. Like, that doesn't make any sense, because that person is panicked, but they're not really thinking about what's wrong with their car. They're just thinking, I need it fixed. Like, please help me. And that's not an auditory conversation. That's not ideal for them. And I think that's another thing, is you're going to see that customer interaction with a manufacturer or insurance company or a dealership or a repair facility or whatever. It's going to change, because customers want to talk to a person, not a bot. And they want help, but they want it visually, to your point. I mean, they don't want it complicated, right? They don't want to read the legal on the side of on the back of a lease agreement. They don't want to read that stuff. I mean, I think when I sold cars over 10 years, I had one person read that agreement, and then she wanted to change it. I'm like, no, you can't change lease agreements. Like, that's not how it works. But anyway, I mean, we're running a little low on time. What should dealers not do with video calls, in your opinion? Let's start with Doug on this. What do you think?
Avoid them.
So just don't avoid them. Yeah. So don't ignore that call.
That's one thing. Another thing, what you should do, I don't think you should go into it unprepared. I don't think you should think that it's going to be the savior of the dealership. I don't think that they should discount their importance, but I don't think that they should use it at the expense of other tools. But I definitely don't think that they should put their head in the sand and just say, I'm not going to adopt this. They need to start looking at it. So those would be 5 I don't of what I wouldn't do.
All right. Matthew, what do you think that people should not do with video calls?
So one of my favorite questions to ask a dealer right now, and it's a trick question, is anybody on your team doing video over FaceTime or WhatsApp? And the reason it's a trick question goes back to, current legislation, but also the CARS rule.
Yeah.
Because if they tell me no, nobody is, I'm like, well, why the heck not? Because think about all the power of video we've talked about on this call. I'm like, well, what do you mean? Why aren't you? But if they say yes, I go, oh my gosh, you are opening yourself to a tremendous amount of liability and risk. You see, highly regulated industries like insurance and banking, which dealers essentially are, they never, ever allow their employees to get on FaceTime with a consumer. In fact, they will sue the employee. Go look it up. State Farm, the banks. There are multiple cases of the highly regulated industry suing their employee for getting on FaceTime with a customer. Why? Because it's creating risk and liability for that business. So what I would not do as a dealer is I would not allow my team to be using FaceTime and WhatsApp. I'm hoping that they're doing it now, because now I'm going to say, hey, here's a tool. Here's Bitify. Here's VidCalls. Here's A to Z Sync, right? So that's what I would not be doing, because it's not recorded, it's not transcribed, it's not summarized, and so you have a compliance issue that's creating risk and liability for the dealer.
Fair enough. Joel, what should people not do with video calls?
Well, I think what a dealer, I agree with both you guys, Matthew and Doug. I think what a dealer should not do is force feed. I think they should take their time. I think we should give them a 30 or 60-day free trial of the product and let them call their family and call their friends and get to see how easy it is to get on video calls, and then transform that into the selling of cars, of new and used cars. But I wouldn't force it. I would continue. If I was a dealer, I would say, shoppers, we have 3 choices. We want you to come into our dealership to see all of our beautiful cars. If you can't make it to the dealership, you can call us, but now we have video call service. You can meet with us on a video call as well. And that needs to be offered to the consumer. There's 3 ways you can buy a car from us. Come to us, call us on the phone if you think that's going to work, or let's meet on a video call. And I think the shoppers will buy off on the video call because everyone's doing Zoom and FaceTime anyway. I mean, consumers aren't afraid of video calls. Believe me, they're not. And dealers know what video calls do. It's just a question of binding it together and doing their marketing properly.
Well, 100% agree. I mean, when you look at video calls, not a new technology. Video calls, I think, even predate the smartphone. But from a point of view of video, people are using videos so much in their day-to-day life that to not adopt that, I think, is you're missing the boat. I don't think you should rush into anything, but when a customer is presented with, say, 4 options, chatbot, video call, lead form, and phone call, you're never going to get 100% of anything, but you need to have those options so the consumer has choice. And more importantly, if you have choice as a dealership and your competitors don't have that choice, you're going to find a huge uptick. I mean, we found that through VidCalls where, working with dealers in markets where some had it and some didn't, there was a distinct advantage. And I don't think you want to be that dealer who doesn't have that better experience, especially when this has come out day in and day out for as long as I've been around, at least the last 10 years. Every single day we talk about customer experience. But thanks very much for all the time. Any final thoughts?
I hope that car dealers watching this show, and I know that you send out emails to thousands of them of this video that we're having right now. When they see this and they hear this, hopefully it'll get embedded and their minds will change and they'll conform.
Thanks.
Yeah.
One thing I think we missed, Ian, is training. Because at least our calls are transcribed, summarized, and recorded using AI. There's a lot of training value, whether it's F&I or salespeople. Because right now, as a desk manager, I tell my salesperson to go say this and do this, and I have no idea if they're doing it.
Right.
Whereas on video calls, I actually, as management, I get more control and I've got more capabilities around training, and we can leverage AI for that training.
Training and coaching. Yep, you're right.
100%. Have yourself a great week. Thanks for being on the show.
Guys,
All right.
adios.
Thank you, everybody. Matthew, Doug, take care, guys.
Thanks.